The first images that reached the rest of the world looked almost unreal. In the rural Kaʻū district on the southern tip of Hawaiʻi Island, entire stretches of Highway 11 had simply vanished into muddy chasms. Homes that had stood for decades sat twisted hundreds of yards from their foundations, half buried in debris. Bridges that once connected isolated communities to the rest of the island lay in broken pieces. Floodwaters had ripped open a cemetery, scattering headstones and unearthing remains. In the quiet town of Nāʻālehu, searchers later found the body of a 90-year-old woman who had been reported missing after the waters rose. This was the aftermath of Hurricane Lala, a storm that never made official landfall, yet left parts of the Big Island looking as if a wall of water and wind had tried to erase them. On the weekend of August 15 to 16, 2026, Category 1 Hurricane Lala delivered one of the most significant tropical cyclone impacts the Hawaiian Islands had seen in generations. Its center stayed roughly 30 miles offshore southwest of South Point, but its northeastern eye wall brushed the southern coast of the Big Island. The combination of hurricane-force winds, extraordinary rainfall measured in feet rather than inches, and the island's steep volcanic terrain turned the storm into a disaster of flash floods, landslides, and isolation. Lala began as a tropical wave far to the east-southeast of Hawaii in early August. It organized into a tropical storm on August 13th and steadily strengthened over unusually warm Pacific waters. By Saturday morning, August 15th, it reached hurricane strength with sustained winds of about 75 miles per hour. Forecasts raised the possibility of a historic landfall, the first direct hurricane strike on the Big Island in more than 150 years. Instead, the center remained offshore, while the storm's rain bands and eye wall lashed the islands. It weakened back to a tropical storm as it moved west, but not before dumping record or near-record rains and knocking out power to well over 100,000 customers at the peak. Flooding proved far more destructive than the wind in most places. The highest measured total reached 43.54 inches at Lāpaho on the Big Island's northern coast between August 14 and 16, with more than 31 inches falling in a single 24-hour period. Other locations reported more than 35 inches. In the Kaʻū district, the numbers were lower in absolute terms and some gauges, yet catastrophic in effect. Intense bursts of rain on steep slopes produced debris flows and flash floods that overwhelmed streams and roads. Rainfall rates approached several inches per hour at times. Rivers that are normally modest became raging torrents capable of moving buildings. In Kaʻū, the damage was concentrated and severe. Communities including Pahala, Nāʻālehu, and Ocean View were hard hit. Hawaii County Mayor Kimo Alameda, after an aerial survey, described devastation and counted at least 6 bridges destroyed or nearly destroyed. Access to Pahala, home to the region's community hospital, was cut off for a time. Homes were swept from their foundations. At least 2 in the Nāʻālehu area were carried significant distances by floodwaters. One resident described watching an elderly neighbor's house disappear into 5-foot-deep water. More than 100 homes across Hawaiʻi Island were reported damaged or destroyed. The Punalu Bake Shop, a well-known local landmark and employer in Nāʻālehu, took on several feet of mud and water through its buildings. 2 cemeteries were inundated. Ancestral remains were disturbed, and the areas had to be secured. Power infrastructure suffered heavily. Hawaiian Electric reported tens of thousands of outages that peaked well above 100,000 customers statewide and approached or exceeded 150,000 to 220,000 at the height of the event, depending on the snapshot. On the Big Island, a large percentage of customers lost electricity. Some rural areas faced the prospect of outages lasting weeks or even months because of damaged transmission lines, flooded roads that blocked repair crews, and the sheer scale of the work. Hospitals switched to generators. Schools, state and county offices, and many public facilities closed for days while officials assessed safety and cleared roads. Wind damage was widespread, even if secondary to the water. Sustained hurricane-force winds near the core and strong tropical storm-force winds farther out toppled trees, including large, brittle albizia that can block entire roadways when they fall. Roofs were lost or heavily damaged. Gusts on the summit of Mauna Kea exceeded 140 miles per hour. The high elevation also saw snow and bitter wind chills. On Oahu and Maui, trees came down on power lines and structures. Water rescues occurred on Oahu, including multiple people pulled from threatened homes in areas such as Waiaholo. Maui saw flooding, road impacts, and residents seeking shelter. Kauai experienced heavy rain that closed sections of highway and caused localized flooding. One confirmed storm-related death was reported, the body of an elderly woman. Accounts listed her as 90 and 93, was found in Nāʻālehu after she went missing from her neighborhood during the flooding. Authorities said foul play was not suspected. An earlier report of a fatal vehicle accident near South Point was also linked to the storm conditions by state officials. Hundreds of emergency calls for downed trees, flooded roads, damaged structures, and water rescues poured in across the island. By Sunday, August 16th, Lala had weakened and moved well west of the main islands, though residual rain bands continued to affect western areas for a time. All commercial airports and harbors reopened relatively quickly, and airlines worked to restore schedules after roughly 190 flight postponements or cancellations. Recovery, however, was only beginning. National Guard personnel were activated. Utility crews faced difficult access. Residents in cut-off communities dealt with disrupted communications, limited supplies, and the emotional shock of surveying what remained of their homes and neighborhoods. Governor Josh Green toured damaged areas and described the flooding as more destructive than the wind. Officials urged people to stay off damaged roads while cleanup continued. Historically, Lala ranks among the more impactful near misses for the Big Island. Only a handful of hurricanes since the mid-20th century have passed within 70 miles of the island. Its rainfall totals place it among the wetter tropical systems to affect Hawaii, trailing events such as Hurricane Lane in 2018 and Hurricane Heikki in 1950 in some comparisons. The storm illustrated how Hawaii's steep topography can amplify rainfall to extreme levels even when a hurricane's center stays offshore, and how rural infrastructure can be quickly isolated by the loss of a few critical bridges and road segments. In the days that followed, the images and accounts continued to emerge. Collapsed highway sections near Pahala, mud-choked streets, power poles leaning or downed, and residents picking through debris. Some communities remained difficult to reach. Power restoration progressed in stages, faster in urban areas and slower in the hardest-hit rural zones. Schools and government offices stayed closed longer on the Big Island, while the rest of the state gradually returned to more normal operations. Thank you for watching World Weather Report, your source for real-time updates and in-depth analysis of nature's most powerful events, from hurricanes and typhoons to floods, earthquakes, and wildfires. Note, some footage is illustrative. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe.